This is ISO. Oh, this is Alps. Okay, fixed. Awesome. All right, how's everyone doing? Good? So I thought there was a speaker ahead of me, but there's not apparently. I'm the only speaker, but that's okay. So Zane asked me, I think last week, to just give a talk, no topic that was determined. So I thought about it for a while, didn't come up with something, this is what I came up with. I thought since it's the end of the year, there's tons of newcomers here, I thought, why not talk about the growth that we've seen this year? So that's why I've titled it Keyboard Bull Run. I don't know how many of you guys are into stock market or economics, but bull run, just the economics term. All right. I so bad. No, it doesn't work. All right, so in case you guys don't know who I am, I don't know how many newcomers there are. For how many people is this their first meetup? Oh wow, that's a lot, okay. How many of you guys don't know who I am? Oh, okay. Well, just a quick introduction. I'm Taeha Types. I also go by Nathan. I used to be a ex-software engineer at IBM, developing their Big Fix product. Most of you guys probably haven't heard of it, I would assume, but it's an enterprise product that manages endpoints. And I primarily dealt with Python, Perl, and C++ code. Thought I'd put it out there because I get asked about it a lot on my streams. I also think Vim is better than Emacs, and tabs are better than spaces for any software programmers out there. A little bit regarding the keyboard community. I purchased my first ever nice mechanical keyboard in 2015, and that was the Realforce 104 UG High Pro. I still have it. It's that's one right there, yeah. I've left mine stock. I think I'll never mod it. It's just an emotional thing. But yeah, that was the first ever keyboard that I purchased. But I didn't really start diving deep into the custom scene until 2017. And the first nice real custom I purchased was the Fiel that most of you guys probably know about. But yeah, this September, I quit my software job and I went full-time content creator. I primarily focus on luxury custom keyboards, but as of late, I have been going more into pre-builts and more affordable options. But yeah, what I've been trying to do is just spread awareness of mechanical keyboards in general, but with a focus on the custom scene. And as of yesterday, I am sitting currently at around 70,000 YouTube subscribers and 40,000 Twitch followers. So I have a pretty good understanding of the influx of people, I would say. So hopefully that's some kind of qualification. I started uploading to YouTube in January of 2018, and I started my Twitch channel in July of 2018. So a little under 2 years I've been doing this now. Does this work? Oh, it works! All right. So a lot happened this year. How many people joined the hobby this year? Okay, for those of you guys watching on YouTube, around half I think joined this year. So that's a lot. Yeah, just a quick kind of notable events. So this is just taking 2019 into consideration. We had some interesting activities. We saw vendors going full-time. So Dixie Mech went full-time. He's also just recently hired his first full-time employee. So Dixie Mech is now a two-man operation. Project keyboards, there's a lot of Alice keyboards out there. I would assume half of them are probably using Project Keyboards Alice PCBs. Project Keyboard recently went full-time. SwitchMod keyboards, you guys probably purchased all your loops from there. Also recently went full-time. Novel Keys has been full-time since 2000, I want to say 17 or 18, but they've hired 2 additional employees this year. So Novel Keys is probably the biggest small-time community vendor currently. We've also seen designers go full-time, right? That's, I think, an even bigger achievement. We saw the creation of KeyCult. Riot on the Bay did release keyboards before this year, but he officially went full-time this year doing KeyCult designing. We've also seen Norbauer. I saw the Heavy Six out there. Norbauer also recently went full-time keyboards as well. RamaWorks, I have been told this might be not true, maybe it's true. I thought I read somewhere, but I believe RamaWorks also went full-time this year. They've kind of been working on it full-time, but I think this year Rama went full-time. I could be wrong, don't quote me on it. And of course, TX Keyboards also went full-time. TX Keyboards has his own shop in Korea, And there's a US proxy who came out last week at the meetup, but TX Keyboards also went full-time as well. And we've, of course, got a ton of content creators other than myself. You guys might have heard of all these, but just to name a few, these are just the ones that I can think of that started consistently producing content this year. Most of them are on Twitch. I think Cone Roamers is the only person who's mostly on YouTube, but yeah, all of these people live stream builds on Twitch, cover news, they have podcasts, talk shows, all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool to see as well. All right, and if I missed anyone in 2019, I'm sorry. This is just what I could think of off the top of my head. All right, so in 2018, we had 29 GMK sets run. How many do you guys think ran this year? Does anyone know? Just a wild guess. 150? I don't know, not 150. Someone said it. 73 GMK sets went into Group Buy this year. So I'm not sure if this is entirely accurate. There's a GitHub portfolio that keeps track of all this. And so far, I mean, the year is almost over, but 73 keycap sets went into Group Buy. I'm not sure if that includes failed keycap sets. I don't know if any failed this year. Some are at risk of failing, but yeah, that's insane. 73 GMK sets. That means, on average, more than one GMK set was released per week this year. It's kind of crazy to think about. Okay, that's really hard to see. So I thought I'd gather some data. I don't know if you guys have, I don't know if anyone's ever done this, but these are just public stats you can pull up on the subreddits. So I pulled one up for RMK and RMEC Market. And these are just graphs from the creation of the subreddits. So you guys can see it's an exponential curve, right? In terms of just how many people are subscribing to these subreddits. Even just between 2018 and 2019, for both subreddits, they have at least doubled. They haven't quite hit the triple mark, but they've more than doubled in the past year. So that's pretty crazy to see. That's also not to say that just because we have 475,000 subscribers of the RMK subreddit, that they're all active. I would probably assume the majority of them aren't. I think a better statistic to probably look at is the interaction with like the comments, gold giving, post voting and whatnot. So I think that's a little bit more of a realistic statistic, but just in terms of growth, it's kind of crazy to see that both of them have more than doubled. These are my public stats. You can pull up stats on myself if you go to websites. So this is just a quick poll on Taeha types on Twitch Tracker. This also tracks my lifetime growth, but as you can see, 2018, it ends right there. It was pretty linear, I would say. And then starting from 2019, it's not quite as exponential as the RMK, RMEC market growth, but I would say it's on a somewhat exponential trend, in between linear, in between exponential. But yeah, that's kind of crazy to think about, that a keyboard-focused Twitch channel has 40,000 followers on Twitch. And I'm currently averaging around, I want to say 500 average viewers per stream. It says 389 up there, but that's because it's taking data from 2018 as well. But yeah, kind of crazy. This is stats on my YouTube. So once again, 2018 looked pretty dead. But starting from 2019, every month I have been averaging at least around 5K subs per month, I think, based off the graph. And based on the graph for views, I've been averaging at least 500K views per month. I don't know what YouTube counts as a view, but there you have it. And I think one reason for the growth is just how much exposure has been put out there. So if you arrange my videos by popularity, those are the top 5 videos. The first video, the most popular video on my YouTube channel, is some random build stream with the M65A with Paco switches, and it's almost about to hit 1 million views on YouTube. But that was released 11 months ago. The second most popular video on my channel is the feel that I built for NRG Dizzy, and that's sitting at around 650,000 views, and that was uploaded 8 months ago. So 4 of those 5 videos that are most popular on my channel were uploaded within the span of this year, sorry. But even just not myself, there's been tons of other content creators on YouTube that are starting to notice mechanical keyboards. You guys have probably all seen the one that The Verge put out that was released 5 months ago. It has around 330,000 views. Random Frank P released a video on the Grid 600 that's currently sitting at around 640,000 views. Tons of people in the OC community coming in. Beast Troll MC, his keyboard video is sitting around 500,000 views. Snazzy Labs, Brandon Taylor, Tae Keyboards has one. You guys probably all know Tae Keyboards, but yeah, there's tons of other YouTube creators that are also starting to pick up on the potential of the keyboard scene. And then probably my biggest achievement of this year, I want to say, I got MKBHD to notice custom keyboards. He responded to me on a tweet. And of course, we have Skara using a key cult number 2 that I built for him. So it's pretty crazy. Custom keyboards are starting to, I don't want to say go mainstream yet, but it's starting to get noticed. And I think people are kind of getting sick of just, the standard gaming keyboards you can purchase. So yeah, the keyboard hobby is clearly booming. I think we can agree on that, right? But are we in a bubble? I think that's the question everyone has, right? I was featured on Mex on Deck a couple months ago, and we also talked about this. Everyone's wondering, is this a bubble? Is it going to pop? Is the market sustainable? How many GMK sets is too many? Will we see double next year? Can everyone afford to purchase a GMK set a week? Is it possible? How many group buys will actually deliver? I think there are a couple keycap group buy sets currently at risk of failing right now. Even keyboard group buys, right? We are seeing some projects just being closed down because there's this influx of new people thinking they can run group buys. But in reality, they have no experience, and it kind of turns to crumbs. How sustainable is the aftermarket? A lot of people are having grievances with how high prices are skyrocketing, and how sustainable is that? How long can people continue to afford to pay thousands of dollars for prices like this? I think the question that I want to know most about is how many newcomers will stay a year from now? There's this whole wave, right, that people are riding of people coming in, they're all excited. But after a year, after 2 years from now, will they still have that passion and drive? Will that hype die down? Will keyboards just go stagnant? And is there enough refreshing content and material for newcomers and even old-timers to intake? Like currently, I think most people on Twitch that are doing keyboard content, they're all doing build streams. I mean, I do build streams, right? But like, how long can you do build streams until it gets stale and old, right? So these are my predictions for 2020 and onwards. My first prediction is that I think the community still is going to double next year, maybe even more. But and that's just based off what I know I have planned next year. There are some big things planned for next year that also involve working with other people, but I can't release it yet. But just based on that alone, I'm going to predict that we're probably going to see at least another doubling this year in size. Hopefully that's true. That means more business for me, more business for other people. But yeah, that's my prediction at least. I'm hoping that comes true. The next prediction, I think we're going to see an increase in-stock items. We're already seeing vendors like Novel Keys and Dixie Mech, they're already buying tons of extras. They're almost, I want to say, matching the number of units they've sold in terms of extras. People are recognizing that there's this huge demand for an aftermarket. So I think vendors will start to have the capacity to stock items on their stores permanently. And I think it's kind of a two-way fold, right? If you have in-stock items, it encourages newcomers even more. That's one of the things that turn people off right now. You just can't purchase things you want because they either joined too late and the group buy is no longer available and the products are no longer available. So I think having that in-stock item will aid to more people coming into the hobby. I also think vendors are going to scale even more, obviously, right? Novel Keys, already 3 employees, they're already they're looking to move into a new warehouse that's huge. I think it's been public, but yeah, they're going to move into a giant warehouse that they're hoping to stay at for the next couple of years. But I think we're going to start to see other vendors scale up as well, right? Dixie just hired his first employee. Canon Keys has been taking on tons of group buys, but he hasn't fulfilled on any of them. So when it's time to fulfill all these keycap sets he's running, I think he's running 1 or 2 every month, and they're doing pretty well. Like, he's picked up pretty strong sets. GMK Cafe is really strong. But when it comes to deliver that, how is he going to do it? He's definitely going to have to scale. Same with Project Keyboard, right? GMK Pingzu, another strong said. He's running tons of keyboard projects. When it comes to actually receiving it and he has to fulfill it, he's going to need help. And I think vendors are going to start to find a way to scale up. But I think we're also going to start to see a lot of smaller vendors, right? There's just too many GMK sets for people to handle right now. I think one case of that is Kono. I'm sponsored by Kono, but I think they have too many GMK sets right now. They're not meeting MOQ. They're kind of on the risk of not meeting MOQ. And we're going to need more vendors to step up and handle smaller projects so that they can be fulfilled properly. So I think we're going to see this greater disparity in, I want to say, let's say, A-list vendors versus up-and-coming vendors. But I think that's a positive, right? The more vendors we have, the more products we can get into people's hands. Next thing. I'm not sure if this will happen in 2020, maybe later, but I think we're going to start to see designers and vendors maybe moving towards a seasonal release. So we see that in other hobbies, right? Like let's take fashion, for example. I'm into fashion. It kind of makes sense in fashion to have a fall-winter release and then a spring-summer release, which is kind of natural. Doesn't make sense for keyboards, but Keycult this year, they were releasing, their plan was to release one keyboard a month, and they've almost been meeting it. Their latest run was a combination of the past 2 months, the number 160, number 165. But on average, Keycult has been releasing one new product every month. As for whether that's sustainable, I'm not sure. I feel like, one, it's very taxing on the designer to have to come up with new designs within 1 month spans and then get it to market. I think it makes sense to have longer sprints. Let's say every 6 months they'll release a batch of products. We see that with technology, right? Cell phones, Apple does this. They have an event every 6 months or so, and that's when they refresh their line of products. So I think we might start to see vendors and designers like Keycult, TGR, Rama move towards these kind of seasonal releases. They're already kind of in this seasonal state just because of how group buys work. You purchase a product, you wait a couple months. You can consider that a season almost, but I think we're going to see more of a structured format to that. And yeah, tons of development still untapped. As much as we meme on the gaming community, they're the ones that are making optical switches, Hall effect switches come to life. They're the reason why we're starting to have these kind of technologies. But like optical is completely untapped in the custom scene. And I think optical switches and Hall effect switches or something else we haven't thought of. I think that's the next move, right? If we can get optical switches to the sound quality and feel of the standard cherry switches or Gateron switches, I think why would you not want the analog variant over the mechanical variant, right? So I think there's still that to be tapped. Bluetooth, that's another thing we haven't tapped into. Bluetooth, no one's really done because it's expensive to get certified to sell Bluetooth products, but Bluetooth, I think it's something that a lot of people, if they could have it, they would rather have it than not. And Bluetooth, I think, will also help bring in tons of new people. So yeah, I think there's still tons of room for development in technologies that we haven't really tapped into, and we're going to start to see into 2020 and later, and also obviously new materials. We saw the rise of POM this year and polycarbonate, all these plastics, and now we're seeing this, what is it, UHM, WPE, this new material that we're using for stems. There was supposed to be a group buy for it, but it didn't happen, but maybe 2020 is the year it's going to happen, right? And also just like precious metal. Will we see a gold keyboard in 2020? That's going to obviously attract whales into the hobby, right? If you can just sell a keyboard made of pure gold or it has gems on it, who knows? People might be into that kind of stuff. In 2020, I don't know if this is going to happen, but I think we're going to see new forums. Either GeekHack has to revamp or someone's going to make a new forum. I mean, there's tons of software engineers in the community. Why can't we get a new forum? GeekHack, I think GeekHack is another stopping gate to newcomers right now. Just people don't know how to use GeekHack. I mean, it takes a while to learn if you're not used to old style forums, and I think that's putting off a lot of people into the community right now. I think someone's gonna come along, make a new forum that works well for releasing products, and hopefully that also makes it easier for people to digest information. And of course, new content, right? That's one of the things I have planned for next year. I want to focus on YouTube and put out what are called evergreen content videos, essentially content that'll last for a while, that'll age well. Things like tutorials, wiki, information that you should find on a wiki, but in video format. That's definitely one of the things I plan on focusing on, and I think most other creators are probably moving towards this as well. There's a huge need for education currently. There's not a lot of information out there that you can just go to one place and find. It's just scattered everywhere, and it's making it very hard for newcomers to come in. And I think we're going to see a lot of content to fill this next year. All right, community. So that's all I had. So yeah, I guess the conclusion is I don't think we're in a bubble. I think even next year we're going to continue to see the growth, maybe even more growth than we've seen. You know, every person that comes into the hobby, that's another new person spreading the word of the mechanical keyboards to their circle of friends, and it just kind of blossoms out from there. So I think next year I will still be in business. I won't have to go back to software engineering. I think we're going to see more people come up, rise to the occasion, and I'm looking forward to what 2020 has in store for us. Yeah, that was my presentation on the growth of the community. Any questions? I guess I can take them now. I think Zane has a mic back there, so.
All right, if anyone has questions, raise your hand and I'll walk around and hand you the microphone.
You can ask me any question, it doesn't have to pertain to the presentation. Well, it's not being live streamed, so.
Okay. What do you consider to be the sign of a bubble developing in a community? In terms of like hypes or group buys and keycap sets, keyboards?
That's interesting. So the only other bubble I've been a part of is the crypto movement. I've been into crypto. I still have some assets in crypto. What are the signs of a bubble? I think the signs of a bubble, obviously, an unreasonably large bull run. I think we're having an unreasonably large bull run, right? People are paying more in the aftermarket than it would to just prototype a unit yourself from a factory. I think that's unreasonable, right? It's like if someone paid more in a victory auction for a Keycult product than just commissioning Keycult themselves. Like, why would you do that? I mean, I guess time is money, right? Some people would rather have the unit now in their hand than wait a couple months to have it commissioned. But I think one of the signs that we're in a bubble is probably just how quickly prices have risen so far. I think prices have risen way too quickly. Like I literally saw the TGR Alice jump from being sold for like $700-900 after group buy to like, I think at its peak was like 3,000 something. Like that's ridiculous. I think that's one of the signs of a bubble. That's probably not sustainable, but we'll see. With all these newcomers coming in, there's going to be a lot of eager folks with a lot of disposable income, and they might be willing to pay that price to just have whatever unit they want in hand. Another sign that we might be in a bubble, I guess just the influx of products that aren't well thought out. Like for example, the Haley, the whole Cygnus, not Haley, Hey Cygnus, the whole fiasco that happened with that, right? There's gonna be tons of new people coming in. They're gonna see all this money potential. I'm not saying the Cygnus was a group buy meant to just build as much money as possible, but people are gonna come in thinking, oh, I can make a lot of money. Keycult is selling a board for $800-900. Why not? Why can't I do that and make a lot of money? But people don't realize how much goes into actually making that happen and how much you have to. It's not as big of a profit margin as people think. Keycult also recently said they didn't really have their first profitable paycheck until after #1 revision 1, I think. So yeah, they're selling keyboards at a high price, but it's also very expensive to manufacture. There's a lot of risk that goes into it. So I think we're gonna see a lot of that, even with group buys, right? People don't know how to market group buys currently, just because there's so many group buys out there for keycap sets. How do you make your set stand out? No one really knows yet, because there's just been this huge influx. So I think this huge influx of just everything happening very quickly, probably the signs of a bubble. Hopefully that answered your question.
All right, thank you.
And if I can actually add to that real quick, every day I'm seeing the keyboard community, like high-end customs, moving more towards something that resembles a hypebeast culture in a way, with Keycult as the main factor in that. See people buying buying into group buys, keycap sets, keyboards, because they know that they can flip it or they know they can sell it for a higher profit, or just buying it because everyone else wants one. And that's the reason why everyone wants them.
Yeah.
Any other questions? You?
Do you think sometime next year we'll see more crossover between the English-speaking communities and the larger keyboard communities in like the Japanese and like Korean forums?
Oh, definitely. I think Korea and Japan is still largely untapped. I mean, custom started out in Korea, but they've kind of died out. And the Korean community is a lot smaller than people think. Like, people just know of OTDs and whatnot, so they think there's a huge scene out there. But I would say the Korean community, there's probably 40 to 50 active members in Korea. So I think there's a huge potential that's untapped in Asian countries, especially with just the growing pro esports scene. A lot of them are from Asian countries. So I think we'll definitely see a lot of crossovers. It's obviously hard with the language barrier, but like even if you just check my stats for YouTube and Twitch, it's very international in terms of viewership. I've been streaming during EU-friendly times recently, and they do just as well as streams dedicated to North America. So I think yeah, we're gonna definitely see tons of crossover. I would love to see an international worldwide keyboard convention next year, where people can fly in. Yeah.
Next question.
What do you think about GMK Handerby hitting MOQ?
What do I think about it? I was definitely responsible for it. I purchased the set. I think during that stream, Karlbit said he got 5 orders just because I bought the set. People bought the set. I also helped market it. I mean, I tagged a bunch of, I tagged a lot of the guys that you guys saw that I posted. Brandon Frank P, Brandon Taylor. Brandon Taylor bought a set, so maybe he encouraged people to buy it. I've said it on stream, I like it better than GMKB. I like Handerby better than GMKB. It's time to retire my GMK Hyperfuse set, so maybe Handerby will be that one. Yeah.
Next question.
Hello.
Oh shoot, hey.
How do you feel about Bizarrumi, and do you think he's an up-and-coming keyboard designer and a rising star in the community?
Yeah, Bizarromi's account got hacked, if you guys didn't know. Go follow Bizarrumi on Instagram. I think it's great. I think, yeah, we're seeing a lot of new designers, right? That's one thing I didn't mention, but there's tons of designers coming into the hobby. Bizarromi is one of them. He's been coming up with some pretty cool designs. Not Abek, Adron Blunt or something on Instagram. He's been producing some pretty cool renders. Yeah, like tons of new designers coming in, right? Well, we have Smith and Rune coming in. A lot of hype around the Iron 165. I think it's great that we're having these new designers. I think that it builds for competition for existing designers like Keycult and Rama. And with competition comes up better products that we as consumers can purchase.
Next question. Any other questions?
There's one back. There's one. Oh.
How likely do you think it'll be that we'll see more like brick and mortar shops that like are present in like other like very large cities, like in Akihabara or in New York?
That's the dream, I think, to have brick and mortar shops. Right? I've said this on stream. Like one of my dreams, assuming Keyboards plans out, is to have like a Taeha type store eventually next to like other well-known designer stores. I know Norbauer said this too. Like Norbauer wants to have a brick and mortar shop where just go in, try out his keyboards, and purchase a keyboard on the spot, right? How likely is that? It's very expensive, at least in large cities like this. Maybe it's possible out in like Alabama where Dixie lives, where it's very cheap, but it wouldn't really make sense to have a brick and mortar shop in a non-large city, I feel like. So I don't think 2020 will see brick and mortar shops yet, at least in cities like LA or New York or Seattle even. I think it's still going to be a bit of time before we see that. I also think designers currently don't have enough products yet. Like even if Keycult, Rama, Norbauer opened up a shop, they don't have enough products to warrant having and paying for that kind of space. So I would say at least a year or two until we see that kind of stuff. Maybe even longer. Yeah.
Next question.
So what do you think about the artisan scene? Do you think that we possibly could have a bubble with artisans anytime soon, especially with the resale prices that are for like Schrodinger's hat, for example?
Wait, sorry. I heard artisan and then it got quiet.
Oh, that's okay. What do you think of the artisan scene? Do you think the artisan scene most likely will start having a bubble due to the high resale prices on net market, especially? Or do you think it will be in a solid state from now?
That's a good question. Well, artisan keycaps have always been expensive. So I don't know if it's going to hit a bubble. So it's interesting. Artisans are viewed differently. They're viewed more as art than keyboards and keycap sets are. So I'm not sure if there's going to be a bubble. Art, by nature, it attracts higher prices, I think, just because of the hand craftsmanship that goes into it, the emotional attachment that goes into it. I think artisans will always be expensive, just because if an artisan is mass-produced, it's going to be cheap. No one really wants to pay much for it. I think one of the appeals of artisans is that it's handmade in limited quantities. So I don't think, my guess is that the artisan community won't see a bubble. It'll always be expensive, at least the sought-after ones. Yeah, but I'm also not huge into artisans, so I could be entirely wrong.
And I guess adding to that a little bit, yeah, artisans are seen as art, which is why it's very expensive like art is. But when artisans do start getting mass-produced, start getting group buys on large quantities of artisans for the same price as novelties, I think they won't be seen as anything more than novelties then. Next question.
Yeah, I mean,
Anyone
like
else?
if you take a look at like artisans that drop runs, right? It's available most of the time, so no one really looks after them, and you just wait until it comes back. Yeah.
Any other questions? Any questions?
Going once,
Going once, going twice.
twice,
Looks like that might be it.
3 more times. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Hope you guys have a great rest of the meetup. Also, please consider subscribing. Oh, and thank you to a Zane meetup.